This weekend, I saw The Tragedy of Macbeth, which I think is having a limited theatrical run, but you can also see it on Apple TV Plus. It stars Denzel Washington as Macbeth and Frances McDormand as Lady Macbeth, and it is directed by Joel Cohen. Now, I am not a huge fan of Shakespeare performed on screen. Up until I went to college, I had never seen Shakespeare performed on stage. I had only seen various film versions in my middle school and high school English classes. And it always seemed really goofy to me to watch people talk to themselves in 17th century English for 5 or 10 minutes straight while trying to produce some sort of a relatable human emotion. I never understood Shakespeare until one day in college I was walking past a park near campus, and I saw some students putting on a small production of a Shakespeare play, and so I stopped by and watched it for about 15 minutes. What I noticed that finally made Shakespeare click for me was the fact that the actors weren't just talking to themselves or the other actors, but they were also addressing the audience. They'd be in the middle of a conversation with another actor, and then they would turn to the audience. Like if two actors were in an argument or something, they'd be arguing with each other, and then one of them would kind of turn to the audience and continue talking as if he's appealing to the audience, being like, hey, am I right? So when Hamlet, for example, gives his long to be or not to be speech, he isn't performing as if the audience doesn't exist, but he will face the audience and look you in the eye and speak to us as if we are peering into his mind. And when I saw that, I thought, I understand now! I finally understand Shakespeare! So for that reason, I find all film adaptations of Shakespeare to be kind of awkward and strange regardless of how good the production values are. And the same thing can be said with the Tragedy of Macbeth. I think that this is a very well-made, well-acted movie, and if you love Shakespeare, you will love this movie, but if you're a guy like me who can only understand about 30% of what is being spoken in a Shakespeare play, then you might find this movie a little difficult to get through. So what did I like about this movie? I loved how they made Macbeth feel like a horror thriller. The Tragedy of Macbeth is an A24 production, and it definitely feels like an A24 movie. A24 is the production company that brought you movies like Hereditary, The Witch, Midsommar, and Lamb. If you have seen a trailer for any of those horror movies, they usually have some kind of a repetitive sound playing over and over again throughout the trailer, like the little girl in Hereditary making the clicking sound with her tongue, the little you know. And then the trailer will have those little violin accent screeching sounds that will jump in randomly. And then the music kind of starts to get more intense and faster, and then it suddenly cuts to silence. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then go watch a trailer for Hereditary or The Witch. This movie kind of feels like a feature-length version of one of those A24 movie trailers, where you'll have a repetitive sound like the slow dripping of blood or the dripping of water play throughout a scene. Then the violin starts to make that creepy squeal, and you see Macbeth talking to himself like he's losing his mind. I just loved that atmosphere. This movie is also very well acted. McDormand stole the show as Lady Macbeth, and also the witch, played by Catherine Hunter, was fantastic. I thought Denzel Washington was alright as Macbeth. I thought he went through his lines a little too quickly, but I mean, he was fine. It's just that Denzel is usually the best part of whatever movie he is in, and so it was weird to see him only put on like the third best performance in the production. The film is shot in black and white, and all the sets are minimalist. And to make the shots interesting, they really focus on using a lot of high contrast shots with long black shadows being cast across white floors and white walls, and it is all very stylish. There are a lot of shots where you just want to take a freeze frame, print it out, and hang it on your wall. As for things I didn't like about this movie, the first thing I didn't like is just that it's Shakespeare and I don't understand Shakespeare, so I missed out on a lot of what the cast was saying. That's obviously not the movie's fault, that's a me problem. The only other thing I didn't really like about this movie is that although I liked the minimalist set design, it did come off as cheap in some scenes, especially in any scenes that took place outdoors. Most of the outdoor shots look like a Wizard of Oz sound studio, where you can clearly see the grass only extends 10 or 15 yards back, and then there's like a green screen or possibly even a hand-painted screen right behind it. Like there's one outdoor scene that takes place near a burned down hut, and the hut looks like it's made out of plastic, so I'm going to dock the movie a couple of points for that. But other than that, I don't have a ton of complaints. Even though I don't like film versions of Shakespeare in general, I will say this is one of the best ones I have seen, so I would recommend seeing it, especially if you're one of the 5 people with an Apple TV Plus subscription. Anyway, those are my thoughts on The Tragedy of Macbeth. If you think I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below, and I will see you next time.